thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of Q&A. There was a few questions that we could not get to last time that we definitely want to get to. These are questions submitted by users on Northern Touch Music Festival's social media, and we are bringing back again Shah to help you answer these questions. All right, my man. Well, last episode was pretty cool because myself and the viewers got to get to know not only you as Shah, the person, but you kicked a lot of good game. We've been getting some great feedback already from other artists who are like, man, thank you. That helped me so much with this and that and this. There was a lot of streaming questions. That's a pretty big topic. We didn't have enough time to cover those, but I know you are someone very experienced in that department and you could bring a lot of value to people. So I saved those questions that hopefully you'd be down to cover this time.
Boom.
So obviously you've had some success, like I had mentioned, with streaming, having songs pop off, and how that can be so detrimental to your career if you don't handle it properly, and how it can also make your career explode by handling it properly. So there's some questions that are kind of like artists that are just starting to figure it out. And then there's some questions that are how artists who've already had experience putting songs on streaming, but they just quite aren't getting the results they want. So I'm going to start off with one of those more starter questions, if you will.
Sure.
So there's an artist by the name of Vivek, Vivek. You can find him on Instagram as well. His question was, how much importance should be placed on playlist promo after an actual release?
Okay, so with your playlist promo, you want to begin before the release. And ideally, to really give yourself a shot, you want to begin well before. So the short answer is 3 weeks is what you need to go to as an independent artist on your own profile and click as you're distributing, submit for Spotify submissions, Spotify playlist submissions. I don't know how much that does. There are artists that get on playlists randomly without someone pushing for them. So it does happen. Mm-hmm. I think that's more of the algorithm. And I think what that does is when you click submit for Spotify playlist, I think all that does is say that you don't want it held back. And I think what that does is open you up to the algorithm.
Good point.
So that's the minimum, right?
Okay.
For pushing playlists, it definitely needs to be done in advance, because how it works is the different platforms, Spotify and all them, for their playlists, they have their curatorial team meet, and it's during those meetings in advance, well in advance of the playlist dropping, that any outside influence, any favors, any requests from relationships can advance a song from an artist that they're rocking with for consideration on playlists. That happens probably 4 weeks beforehand. Wow. Now, so that's what we're talking about. So pushing afterwards is still useful, but because songs can pop off after, like the Old Town Road by the Lil Nas was out for a long time before it went. So you can definitely push after, but there's a very profound effect from having your song begin on those playlists. Tough to do that organically. It'll be bank to sort of pay your way there, and the song will still need to be good. And that's the question. That's the answer. It's 4 weeks before the shit begins is when you want to time-wise be engaged.
And it's interesting because I was unaware of the behind-the-scenes activities that you had mentioned, and that really brings a perspective on more so the importance. And it also kind of helps the artist to learn the business side of these streaming platforms. So that's really good to know that actually happens. It's not completely random. I mean, some algorithm, but there's actual meetings. So I wasn't aware of that. So that's good to know. Thank you.
And I've had songs pop on Spotify, you know, as far as like success for an independent artist goes. So, you know, Just Text hit 6 figures, and Telemundo hit 6 figures. Monster, which I did with Shay from Northern Touch, actually was probably the song that had the greatest drive from the from Spotify, or from the platforms. And that was because there was someone who was, you know, who did this for a living and does this well, who was working the joint. So that's what it is. So it's like, it's not great advice. I mean, it's not great news as an independent artist, but it's just one of those things that, you know, you have to figure out. And then I guess
it's a reality.
It's a reality.
Right?
And the headline is that you only need to pop on one platform. You only need to get your thing going on Instagram or SoundCloud or here, and the rest will fall in line. So you don't need to worry about everything.
Right.
If you Google how do I make something pop, it'll give you there'll be all instructions on finding Spotify playlist curators, right? And curators for playlists across the board. But then you'll also be told to build your own playlist. And you'll also be told to still go hit up press. And you'll be told to be present on communities online. Go be present in Reddit and Facebook and whatever, right? And be present in your community and do live shows and build with other artists. And then
so it gets daunting pretty darn quick.
Well,
like you can't do all that. Yeah.
You'll just run out of time. So then you have to figure out what are the things that you like.
So Vivek was an artist who submitted how much importance should be placed on a playlist promo after release. Joe Boy Rock, who we did mention last episode, but again, for time restraints, we couldn't really elaborate on his question. His question was similar in a sense. How much planning goes into a music release? Now, you had mentioned some game about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time, how there's backroom meetings for playlisting, stuff like that. So outside of the getting on playlists, what else, if there is anything, can they do to help drive streams while maybe they're waiting to be put on a playlist or hoping to be put on a playlist?
Sure. So within the context of streams, because if we expand the conversation, there's so much stuff that goes into the planning of a record. So within the context of streams, the other big thing to do is pre-saves or pre-orders on iTunes. What happens when you get enough pre-saves is it triggers, and this is especially Canadian game.
Okay.
Is that when you get enough pre-saves, which is a manageable number, then it'll trigger the algorithm to start putting your songs on the playlist. Okay. So bust your ass in getting those pre-saves. You need to have a fan base, of course, but pre-saves, I believe in Canada, the number that you need is so small, so manageable that you could do it through one-to-one hustling. Meaning, in general, the numbers you need for anything online, anything streaming is big, right? But for pre-saves, I believe the number is so small that it's something where you could go to your, like if people still use Facebook, you could go to your Facebook friends, you got 1,000 friends, 2,000 friends, and then you just, complete the process with them of getting them done. It's a bit time consuming because you need to do it on the phone. They need to have Spotify.
Right.
They need to have the app. They need to go through the steps. You can run ads. I don't know how effective. You can run ads to direct towards pre-saves as opposed to do the work on your own. I've done that and it's brought in the numbers. So I did that for this latest release. So Demons. So someone who, is experiencing this game, did this for me, and the numbers added up. Now, Demons just came out 48 hours ago. Okay. So I can see that, there was a bunch of pre-saves, and now there's a bunch of new fans. I don't know what the impact of that is beyond that, because it just enough time has not passed. So, I can give you an update in the future on that. But for streaming, what more can you do beyond pre-saves and beyond working the shit in on the inside with curators? There's a website called Submit Hub where you can, and there's other site, which is a site where people will review your music, right? Okay. Yeah, and I think it costs like a few dollars or maybe literally a few cents per review.
Okay.
So it's a different. So with Facebook and Instagram ads, you're playing like a mass like carpet bombing, right?
Right.
Where you want it to cost like just like a cent per view or whatever, and it's sort of like the type of advertising that a billboard achieves, where you just drive by it and it's very like subtle and it's passive. But if you see that in like 5 places, now the points of reference start to add up. It's like, oh shit, Shah's a celebrity. I've seen it.
Right.
My friend was talking about him. I didn't know. I seen
That's
him
that
on a
whole
billboard.
marketing we mentioned in the last episode too, with the more times they see you, the neurons and all this, and they think of you. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
Exactly. But now this one, which actually also it was someone from Winnipeg who put me up on this game of the review sites and Submit Hub, where this game is not the carpet bombing point of reference.
Okay.
What you're paying for here is an individual that you can bank on looking at your shit. And then so I looked at it, I'm like, nah, this doesn't look like
so versus so we mentioned earlier, blogs are not really the driving force now. Streaming is. I remember back when blogs were, you would have to email a bunch of blogs and they would get a bunch of emails. So you'd have to develop a relationship over time, and it's a lot of time and work. But this sounds like a way to save you a lot of time. If you put a little bit of money, you can almost basically guarantee you'll have a human being listen and review it. That's actually big. That's big.
So that's the concept. Yes. So that's the concept. Now the reality is that almost anytime there's meat on the bone, meaning anytime that there's an opportunity with no barrier to entry, where anyone can make dough, just in capitalism, that'll be exploited. So
right.
in this situation, the ideal, what it's built for, is what you said. Pay a small amount of money to ensure that people review your music, right? Now, the hack to that is that, like, to me, it's like, what the fuck do I care if someone reviews my music, right? Like, I'm at the point where I know the shit that I'm doing is good. So what the fuck do I care for a review? The game there is that, well, it's a review. Yeah, sure, it's a review. But what you're paying for is to ensure that these people are hearing your music before it's out. And now the people in Submit Hub that you can target include bloggers and playlist curators. So just sticking with the example of Submit Hub, in an ideal world, right? You pay a few little dollars. I forget what it is. I think there's even a free option. You do a little bit, right?
Okay.
And then so the game that the mayor of Winnipeg put me on was the Streets Mayor, was that so it's not a carpet bombing of whoever, but you're targeting, before the song comes out, bloggers. And the bloggers, whatever, these are all like meaningless blogs, whatever. But still, if their influence is 30 people or 5 people or 100 people, whatever, right? It's automatic, right?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, that is great, because now people have heard of your song ahead of time, even if they don't rock with it, because it's feedback. It's not a guarantee that they're going to put it in their blog, right? And with the Spotify playlist curators, it can't be ahead of time. So in your lead up, you can't actually use this one. It's only after the fact.
Okay.
But where capitalism then comes in is that now you have a bunch of whatever, like a bunch of shit set up where it's just accounts, because then they get paid a little bit to review, right?
Right, of course.
So now you have all these accounts set up as they're a blogger or whatever, just to cash in on rappers, innocent rappers looking to, have their music heard. Right. And who knows if anyone's even listening to this shit. It's probably just a program spitting it out. So
okay.
So I don't know, because I remember I got the game and I was skeptical, but then when our dog explained it to me, it's like, okay, this works. And I think maybe he explained to me as the tide was shifting on this specific site of it being, if it going from like being organic and real to it being like exploited.
Okay.
The last time I looked into it, I remember that site was saying that they wanted to address this issue of people trying to hack it. But that's something you can do. And then there are other sites that I think Bandcamp has an option where you pay some money. So it is relatively expensive per person that you hit, right? With YouTube, you want to get down to a cent. With Facebook, you want to get down to a cent or two. Instagram, maybe still in the realm of cents, right? Here, you might be paying a little bit more, but it's an individual that you're hitting who might have their own influence. Like that then might be a place where the old school blog relationship building is worthwhile. And the thing you need to keep in mind is what makes sense. So, like back in the blog era, or even today, if you're going to hit up, like say the equivalent might be an Instagram influencer, right? Or a TikTok somebody, right? That you reach out to, like, yo, rock with my music, whatever, put my music on. It's got to add up. Like, what's the math? If you've got 0 followers or 100 followers and your influence is 0, or your influence is, like insignificant, then it doesn't make sense for a significant platform to put you on, because what are you doing for them? What, like, are those extra 2 fans you're bringing to the table, does that count for anything? No. So unless someone really believes in you, then that's not going to, like, I mean,
so you want to almost, a theory I heard about, which is not necessarily a music related, but I've heard about when it comes to social media accounts that want to get more popular because they're a whatever show or this and that. I've heard the whole theory that look for someone on a similar level to you to share your fan base, but then as your level goes up.
Exactly. And a lesson that, like, it took a while for me. Like me, I'm a hustler, so I'm always looking to go as big as possible, as fast as possible. So it took a while for me to absorb this, but it's got to be real. So what that means is, within the context of looking at all the people who have similar audiences to you, where is there a real connection? Who do you really rock with? So then it'll feel good, and then reach out to them. And you might need to reach out a lot to get, one yes. But,
and you alluded to that on the last episode too, which is great, because what you're saying now, it's getting more strengthened by some of our other questions too, where people were saying, how do you find your audience? I don't know if you remember this question, but how do you find your audience and reach them? And your advice was, you got to, like, who are you attracting, and you got to, like, engage. So that it's nice to see that overlaps into streaming strategies, and reviews.
100%. And when you can tap into that, then it helps, like, define who you are with so much more strength. It's the concentrated you. When you think about, all right, who am I and who will I speak to? Then it allows you to capture these qualities and present who you are stronger, which will allow you to attract more fans faster that will hold value across the board in different areas. So from streaming to just your social media presence and blah, blah, blah.
Now that you're saying that, it brings me to one of the other questions, which this is a bit vague. Now, this artist is named by Tunzo, Tyrell.
What's up, Tyrell?
And he referenced a specific person online, which I didn't want to, because you don't have time on this live stream to be able to look this person up and watch their videos and see what exactly these tips that this person is explaining. But his question was basically, is it worthwhile using streaming tricks before reaching the organic audience?
It's a standard industry practice. That's what I can say. Meaning that the labels do it, right? Like, there's labels that run up numbers on YouTube, or and who knows how much goes in on, like, how much is happening. But it's standard industry practices to boost your numbers. And then psychologically, it makes sense that it works because it's the social proof, right? So if you see an ad on something as you're scrolling by on your Instagram that has 0 likes, 0 comments, you're not even going to see it, right? But if the shit is popping and there's 1 million comments, right, then they're going to be like, well, what is this? I want to see what's going on. So yeah, so there is value in doing it. And then, this is where the music industry gets kind of tough for who you are as an artist, because the way that my brain works personally, I like shit in black and white. I like that's bad, this is good, do this all the time, never do that. Right. My brain, shit's easier for me like that, right? And but that's not really what it is. Shit's gray.
Sometimes you got to find the black and white yourself by going through the gray.
Well, or shit might never be black and white. There might never be a scenario where all the time this is the right thing to do. And I think that when you find the things that work for you, you should scale those things. So similar to how we were saying, don't worry about doing every single thing there is to do in the game to build your fan base and achieve success. You only need to pop in one world, and from there it'll go out, right? Similar to that, it's the things that do work for you, scale those. So if you had a post that did well on Instagram, then do more of that, right? Like when you cue in the lead up to this thing, in the lead up to Q&A, that one post that you put up on Instagram asking for questions, that popped, right? It was like, as far as a Winnipeg music sites engagement go, Winnipeg hip hop, organizations thing goes, that shit went.
Right. Yeah, there's so like 100 and something comments in there now. And
exactly, it went. And then look at all that energy that then translated to the show, and now we've got something going. Look at the momentum that it helped establish. So whatever you did on that, whatever Northern Touch did there, all right, take note of that. And now that may have been a lot of behind the scenes work. It may have been whatever that took place there, but that thing worked, right? Yes. And it's hard to get something to go on Instagram when you're not already up and popping like that, or doing fake shit to boost up your good shit. That's also something that's been scaled, which is why it's standard industry practice. And I don't know. I guess because I don't do that because my brain works in black and white, and it's like, well, that shit's just wrong. So don't do that. It's just like easier for my brain. Huh?
Like, so what you're saying is when I do my next single, I shouldn't do a video promo of jazz hands.
Well, like if you want me to want you to die, then you should do that shit, right?
Right.
But I will say that this might personally be a moment where you might not want to take my advice, because maybe it is good to do that shit, right? Because like maybe the black and white thinking, it's useful as an independent artist to make quick decisions and just keep going.
There's one last question about streaming that was submitted again by another artist that we didn't get to in the last episode. Afix is an artist.
What up, Afix?
And he tried to get on live with us, but he couldn't last minute, which is all good. His question was basically, we've sort of answered it, but maybe you can focus more on this specific a bit more. And it's, what's the first step an artist should take immediately after releasing music to a streaming platform?
The first step after the music has been submitted, after it's been released. So
on streaming specific.
So meaning, so like you've sent the music to the distributor, you've set the date for release, and now we're talking about the day that it's released, like the moment it's released. What do you want to do?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to make noise. So you definitely want to make noise and just let your own existing fan base know that it's there, because that'll lead to your existing fans going and checking out the music, right? It's the big game there is what you're doing in advance. So we discussed all those things of playlists with respect to streaming. Another advanced thing is collecting emails of all the people that you meet, so that you can notify, or collecting phone numbers, or collecting whatever it is, DM, which is collecting the way that you can communicate with people that'll listen to your music. That's an advanced thing, right? And then what else can you do?
So sorry, just so people understand, the 3 to 4 weeks you talked about earlier, that's now full circle where you're going to see that payoff, because you were building it and now you're activating that, whether it be the inbox.
3 to 4 weeks specifically for Spotify playlist submissions in the generic way, in the way where you're in your distributor, you click yes. When you're distributing your music publicly, meaning through TuneCore, CD Baby, one of these guys, right? And you're doing it yourself, then you can select the date for a year away, right? But at the same time, you'll still click submit for Spotify, whatever consideration. It needs to be at least 3 weeks, I believe, is the point.
Okay.
And I think that those meetings with the team happen 4 weeks in advance. But the work of touching the hands and then collecting your fans or your potential fans' information, email, phone number, DM, whatever, that is a constant game. That's not just 3 to 4 weeks before your single. Every time you go out, you should be doing that. Like, so some people might know, all my people know that I've been rocking with Bernie Sanders. So what I've been a part of is a presidential campaign. Mm-hmm. That word campaign, you should understand real well as a rapper, because your life is going to be campaigning. You're always going to be campaigning. There's never going to be a point where you don't want more fans. Right. Kanye still wants more fans. Kanye's doing all this fucked up shit to expand his notoriety and get more fans and more awareness. So you're always going to be campaigning. And that idea of collecting their information so that you can notify them when your song comes out is constant. You will always want to be doing that. You always want to be collecting that information. That's not just for 3-4 weeks.
So you were saying, obviously the build up so that you can access your current fans, your email lists to get those streaming numbers up. Is there something else that we're not aware of that maybe you can help us with?
Yeah. So one thing that I can't speak on it today because I'm just learning it is TikTok. So we can do another session all on TikTok once I've developed some game. But what you can do in advance of the release is you can consider what is the way to make your song go on TikTok. And again, like we said, it's not about you performing the song. That's not going to be the shit that resonates, right? It's that at a certain moment in the song, you can build it into the song where there's a moment that's the punchline where the visual cue takes place. There are lyrics that you can put in there that lend themselves to easily being like motioned with your hands.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So those
or
are
like a dance. There's been like move like a snake, and that's in the song. And so this snake dance blew up. So yeah, things like that for sure. Basically, what we're learning here, what I'm taking in from these first 2 episodes with you kicking game is there's work.
Oh,
like,
yes.
You cannot bank on viral just by randomly putting it out. Yes, there's the exceptional times that an artist who wasn't big before was fortunate enough that something went viral, but the numbers are against you. And there needs to be work. Directional work. You're not going to pop off just because you have a good song. Like you're saying, there's a lot of background work, and you just can't kid yourselves. I think sometimes, and I think I was guilty of this maybe a number of years ago, was it was that allure. So you look at an artist like yourself, someone who's already achieved these successes, but what I see before meeting you and everything else, I'm seeing what you're showing the world. And that shows the successes, the fun, all that. But we're not seeing the real life, Big Brother house of the work Shah's putting in behind all of that, the boring, the paperwork, the communication, the emails, things like that. The world doesn't see that, but artists that are watching right now need to realize that that's the reality. Is there's a ton of work going on to achieve what things Shah has achieved.
Yeah, like I said,
don't kid yourselves.
Like the headline of this show might be, I know this everything we've discussed is about streaming, but the headline of what I said might be that this is the hardest thing you can do on earth. I do believe that with your game plan, that you're more likely to become the president of the United States of America than pop as a rapper. Now, if the math might not add up, but you're like, well, how many people try to become the president? How many people try to become a rapper? There's a lot of people,
millions, right? Millions and millions. Yeah.
Know what you're getting into. It's still worth it.
Oh yeah, 100% worth the good times.
And this is about giving you the game to achieve those good times.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that. I guess to sort of get towards the end of our session here, speaking of the dark days and times that are tough, and you're putting in all the work that the public doesn't see, to have those shining moments, to have those successes, you're putting in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into things, right? Like you were saying, it can be dark, it can be tough, and sometimes you could probably feel alone, right? And no one's helping me, and things like that. When you're putting out, like, whether it's a streaming song, whether it's a new music video, whether whatever else, it's not always positive. Even then, right? Like, you will get so the reviews say submit hub. Like, what happens if, say, you get a bad review, or somebody who comments very negatively about what you're trying to do as an artist? Let's say Demons, right? And this isn't a promo, whatever, but he happened to release a song where he's talking about inner demons, the dark times in our mind and whatnot. How do you react when somebody may criticize you and make claims against you that aren't true, then it becomes personal because you're like, I'm struggling in my moments and I'm exposing myself, and then someone says, like, let's say they say that Demon song was made up, that you didn't experience these feelings that inspired you to make that song. How do you cope with, say, that person, whether it's a comment on social media, whether it's an email, whatever else? How do you as an artist think you should deal with that?
Okay, so that's pretty easy for me to deal with, but it reminds me of something else, and then maybe we can wrap up after that. But for me, that is easy to deal with because you remember that, I mean, as an artist, maybe this is where the integrity and rolling with integrity comes into play, in that, well, I know, like, I don't make shit up. So someone says that's fake or whatever, like, it's, you know, that doesn't even hit me. And then the part that actually, where you flip that into a positive is that, well, any attention is good. So shit, like, all right, let's like that attention is positive. If you want, you can, like, you can fuel that anger, right? Like, you activated someone to do something, to spend their own time on negativity. Like, you know, that is something that very directly is a reaction that's worthy of pity, right? And then if there's pity, then we don't have time to feel sorry for people, right? If I feel inclined to help someone who is suffering, that's different. But if I want to, you know, like really beat the shit out of that person, then there is the opportunity to do so in a way that benefits you. But that brings me to something. There was some comment that someone, what's his name, John Bon from Flin Flon. There was some comment about someone hating on. Give me as much as you can say, and then let me talk on that, because I think this will be useful and I can expand on.
Right.
Flin Flon is a real place?
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. It's way up north Manitoba. And the fact you mentioned that blows my mind right now.
Okay. So this thing happened in Manitoba.
People in Flin Flon that are watching right now are just probably like so happy, because it's just, they're not known for getting shouted out. And I'm glad that you are, because those people up there are tough. Like,
they're tough? Okay.
Oh my God. They deal with not only just weather. We're talking northern Manitoba, like northern polar bears. We're talking just, man. And there's some artists up there in that area too that, like, if you think it's tough in Winnipeg or in Toronto, those guys are tough. So anyways, yeah, someone had a concern about the true nature of what we're trying to accomplish with this series. You know, we've stated that we're trying to just bring education and game to help artists, not only during isolation, but just in generally speaking. And naturally, sometimes some people might have a concern that, well, is that really our motive? Or are we using this platform and that statement or whatever, that mission, to really just benefit, you know, ourselves within an organization? And it's probably an issue that does happen to a lot of nonprofit organizations. And it's tough because, you know, like you said, as an artist, you're trying to help others by being on this show is a perfect example. How do you address these things?
What you're experiencing and what you're talking about here makes it a little bit different, which is as a nonprofit, Northern Touch. And I've experienced this in the past with nonprofit work I did in the past, where when there's hating on the work that's being done out of the goodness of their heart, it's very different. And I've been in the thick of it, and it's still hating, right? It's still so you're doing this, Northern Touch is built for this. Right now, I'm doing this for the reasons of others, right? My career of my success is for myself and my team and my people, right?
Yeah, like we don't, Northern Touch does not have, we're not a TV network where we pay celebrities to come on our show. Like Shah is volunteering
right.
this time right now.
Exactly. I'm not
getting
anything.
Organizing audio and lighting
exactly.
for no financial or any real benefit to us. We're just both, Shah and myself and Northern Touch are just trying to bring education to people. We're trying to help.
Exactly. So yeah. So like, you know, I'm putting resources into this. I have my team that, you know, could be devoted on pushing my music right now. It's like, all right, let's set this up. Of course, my time right now, first of all, I know Northern Touch is like built to last, right? So, and there's a lot of people doing good for others, especially right now during COVID, right?
Yeah.
I see grants and initiatives starting up, kind of like how we started this up. All right, we're home. There's artists, creatives are really struggling right now. You can't do shows. You can't go out and bang. You can't make money. Let's do something for them. It strikes me in a very painful way, because you're not just going to drop it. And someone who's raised the money to support people is not just going to drop the initiative. So then what do you do? Probably the best thing to do is mute and carry on. Now, I know that in a small community, or if you're particularly good-hearted, or if you're particularly compassionate, you might want to address that hating. You might want to like let that person air it out, right? Anyone who does that is a bigger person than me, because to me, there's two paths. One is ignore, the simplest, give them no energy, and it'll just like, they'll just suck their own life out of their negativity, move on to something else, right? Two, you can proceed with revenge and crush them. And assuming that, you know, you're here and they're here, then you have the power to crush. I don't recommend doing that because I don't think it's worth the time. You should focus on your own success. And the final way, which is, I think it's like kind of like the Canadian way to do it, is, oh shit, this person's angry. Let's hear him out. It's kind of like when, like I've seen at Bernie Sanders rallies, where someone, it might not even be hating and that they're jealous of him, but like negativity come on, and it can be, all right, just ignore him, crush him, but no, he'll let them speak. And I think that's a very compassionate way. It's not how I would go about it. But then what that does is, if you let the hater speak, then it exposes everything that's there.
Northern Touch, his whole beginnings was to try to educate a larger group of people instead of the one-on-one, like we talked about in the last episode. You can spend a lot of time talking one-on-one with different artists, but the idea was, how do we help a lot of artists with the same amount of time? And it was what birthed this organization.
Well, exactly. You guys had me perform at Northern Touch last summer, but it wasn't until that day that it really clicked, when Shay said, well, you know, the spirit of this was founded to help artists. That it's like, you know what, Q, like here, I'll spit some game. We can do it on an ongoing basis, at least as long as this lockdown lasts. Like, sure, I could right now be, you know, in the booth making a quick little, you know, $1,000 doing a feature for someone, in and out, right? Shit, in this much time, in this hour, I could have banged out 4, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, no, let's do this, like inspired by that positivity, which, you know, I guess I just don't see anymore in this life of that I'm living. So yeah, when that spirit is attacked from the outside, to me, I'm far enough away from the nonprofit world that I can just laugh at it. If you're a nonprofit, then this doesn't work. It's just not a solution.
Right. I think Much like we talked about earlier, when you're an artist and they see your successes, they don't see the behind the scenes. I think when people see the festival, they think it's just all milk and honey, but they really have no idea the background work. They have no idea the sacrifices. They think, yeah, they have no idea. They really, and we can never talk about that because that's not professional. It's not what a business does. But sometimes you just wish they could have that Big Brother house camera to just be like, now you see it. Now you see what we're doing. Do you see what's not actually happening you think is happening? I don't think a lot of people, and I'm not trying to big myself up, but I don't think most people are built to run a festival. What we've had to go through. And I, again, can't speak about details because I have to speak for an organization. But all I can say is when we have a mission statement, we actually mean that. And we're actually doing what we say.
Throw it out like in The Power of Now. It's a book where it talks about the pain body. And it's almost like a parasite where it's just like, you might remember this thing that you did or this reason to be angry or something else, right? And then the concept of the pain body that arises and it makes you angry and it triggers, oh shit, this thing happened to me in the past. This person wronged me. I got to get revenge. It still happens to me, right? And sometimes I'll slip and sometimes I'll be like, oh, I need to go get revenge on that person from 4 years ago, right? Huge waste of time. The way to address that is be like, oh, ha ha, little pain body, isn't that cute? Arising in my consciousness. And just let it go, right?
Yeah.
So that's my advice. That's my advice, my dog. But you want to do it. You want to do it the Bernie Sanders way. You want to do it the Pierre Trudeau way, the Manitoba way. Then I'm with it. Just like shine a light and expose the.
Yeah, I'm down to lay all my cards on the table because I ain't hiding anything up my sleeve. So
shout out my dogs in Flin Flon, Manitoba. What up, Flin Flon? When y'all gonna book me for a show? So we'll keep it going. Much love to Northern Touch for making this happen. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Shah, again for your time and helping educate everybody. Much appreciated. Peace.